Welcome to The Good Life. Thank you for stopping by. I'm Patrick Carney. And to all of you who have been watching, listening, I want to say thank you, especially with the last episode with Rob Parks. You guys have been responding very well to it. And for those of you who don't know, you can listen to this on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and iHEART Radio. And you can also listen to this or watch this on YouTube. So make sure to show me some love and like, subscribe, share it. And today I have a very special guest. His name is Christopher Davis, and he is currently traveling across the country. Well, we'll get into all that, but he's one of the most positive, upbeat, unique people I've ever met in my life, and I love talking with him, and I'm excited to share this conversation with you guys. So let's just get to it. CD.
My man, Patrick.
How you doing, brother?
Yeah, I feel a lot better now that I'm seeing your pretty face on here. I didn't think I was going to get to see you till like June or something or later. Well, I thought I was going to have to come make you dinner again.
Yeah. Well, okay. So for those of you who don't, really nobody except for my brother and anybody that was there would know how we met. But CD, I met you through my brother. And for my bachelor party weekend, you were the guru who was generous enough to come and make sure that we were all well fed, and that
was a job,
and that we kept our zen.
That's right. And everyone behaved for the most part. It was all good fun, and you boys ate. It was good. I showed up with a lot of food, and you guys showed up with an appetite. So that was a lot of fun.
You made some killer food. And in terms of behaving, really the only real trip was for those of you who have seen the earlier episode, Mr. Tyler Ennis.
I wasn't sure if I could give him a shout out or not.
Oh, dude, he would love it. Yeah, he fell in the river. Well, more
Mr.
so
Tyler
in the muck of the river.
Took the most wild challenge I've ever seen in my entire life. He's just like, Tyler's this amazing guy who is just full of energy, full of love, and just wants to make everyone have a good time. And like, so we're like playing some bags and having a couple socials, and I said I wasn't going to partake all weekend, and that lasted, I think, 30 minutes into the weekend.
Yeah.
And then I had my first one. They're like, well, the cook's got to have a drink, And so Tyler's like, well, let's see, who can do 10 pull-ups, and 10 pull-ups eventually turn into if we can do 100 pull-ups. And then that 100 pull-ups was spread out, not to one person, but the whole group.
Which there was like 15 of us, but
yeah, which is no problem. I think you did like 15 by yourself.
Yeah.
And so like we knocked this out in like 6 guys. And Tyler's like, if I do this, I'm gonna like stone cold like 2 beers, and I'm gonna take like 4 beers, take like 3 shots, and then like spin around on a baseball bat, and then like run down to the river and jump in the lake or down the lawn. And he did it.
Dude, like he had to stone cold 4 beers. He had to take a shot.
I've never seen outside television.
Yeah, it's an experience, that's for sure. He had to take a shot of whiskey, tequila, vodka, and moonshine.
One of each.
Apple pie,
one of each
moonshine.
Color. Yeah. Which was delicious, by the way.
Yeah, it was. Shout out to Craig. It was.
Shout out to Craig on
it
that.
Was really good. And then he had to do a cartwheel. After he spun around, he had to do a cartwheel. And he did that cartwheel, stood up, and was already rolling on the dock, and just boom, right in. So then we go out on the boat, and we go out to the sandbar, and we're all drinking, having a good time. Well, the water, it'll fry you up when you're in the sun, for one, because the sunlight's reflecting off the water. But 2, we didn't bring any food out there except for like peanut butter filled pretzels.
And just a cooler that we had to sit down, or else it'd float away.
Yeah. And so he and I think he would get a kick out of us telling this, but hopefully. Well, Tyler, if not, love you, buddy.
Here you are, bud.
Yeah,
we love you.
Here we are. And Yeah. And he kept trying to tackle people like as we were getting ready to go on back on the
Dude, Chris was owning him over and over. I have never seen a small man project such a larger man with the littlest of ease into the water in my entire life. And you know what? Bless Tyler's heart, he didn't give up. And that's a good lesson. He never gave up. He's like, you know what? I'm going to attack Chris until I get him. And he tried once, no, twice. Chris threw him this way. Another time, Chris threw him this way. And I think finally he got him on like the third or fourth try.
Yeah, Chris Merritt. He
Dude, he's gristle. That kid's strong.
Yeah, he's really strong.
And I didn't realize how strong he was. I saw him throwing Tyler around. And I was like,
yeah. Tyler went up to try to tackle him, and he just like just chucked him. I mean, like down in the water. And and then Tyler tried to jump Drew, and he made him bleed. He scratched his back and made him bleed. And then we couldn't get him on the boat because like he couldn't.
He almost lost his phone.
Yeah, I know. And then when we got back to the dock. Matt asked him Tyler went up to him and asked him, hey, is there anything I can help carry up? And he said, well, are you sure? And he goes, yeah, I'm good. So he gave him a cooler. And he goes and he grabs the cooler and he starts walking and just like slips and falls into the muck. And it was so gross.
Just all you could see was a face in a black pile of muck. I mean, that initial challenge just put Tyler on a level for the rest of the day that we all wish we were on. You know,
it was legendary for sure.
And he was good spirits about it too.
Yeah, dude.
What time is it over there?
It is 10:15.
Well, it is 8:15 here in Boise, and I would be remiss if I didn't sing you my favorite good morning song.
Do
you know my good morning song?
I don't know your good morning song, but I'm like weirdly ready for it.
Well, I mean, coming from someone who has, now I haven't gotten you to sing for me yet, but you apparently have the voice of an angel. So be easy with me here because this is going to be a rough go.
All right. No, you're good, man.
You ready?
Yep.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. How are you? Good morning. Good morning. Good morning to you too. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday, brother. It's so good to see you.
It is good to see you, man.
Have been missing you since that trip. You know, when I was driving up with your brother Matt, you know, I had known him through my buddy Eric, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna have a bachelor party. CD want you to come cook. I'm like, dope. You're gonna be a bunch of cool guys. I'm like, well, if they're anything like you, they're gonna be great. He's like, well, it's my brother Patrick's bachelor party. I'm like, cool, let's do it. Yeah. And you know, driving up that weekend, I got to know your brother Matt on a whole different level. I mean, me and him had some amazing talks about God. We had some amazing talks about family. I found out about you a little bit. I found out your dad was like a voice on like Christian radio. Yeah. And I was like, I can't wait till I hear his voice. And the second I hear his voice, I'm just like, dude, I know that voice. You know? I could place it immediately. And you know, Matt's what, 5'10", 5'11"?
Yeah, he's 5'10".
And so like
5'10" on a good day.
Yeah. Hey, Matt, I said 5'11", just so you know. I said 5'11". Your brother here said 5'10".
Yeah. Yeah.
And
for those of you who don't know, I'm 6'4". So Matt is like tiny to me.
Exactly.
But he's also
what to expect.
He's also like former military, so he could wrap me up in a pretzel anytime he wanted. So
right. So the door opens up and here comes this 6 foot tall drink of water. And I was like, this is Matt's brother. I'm like, dang, what's up, dude? And you were just so kind. All you guys were so good to me. Instantly, I feel like we all connected and felt like I got 13 new brothers that weekend and a new dad too. I mean, your father is just an amazing man. I got to speak God and just religion with him and just spirituality. And he was just like such a cool, open-minded, just like cat to chat with. Yeah. You know, it was so easy. And he's sitting there, you know, he's sipping on a little something and we're having these conversations. I'm like, this is cool, right? Like, you know, not too uptight and like chill. And that was like, you know, like I said, I think you came in, we talked for a minute and you're like, let me get the chef a drink. And then the weekend just took off from there.
Yep. Well, and actually my dad did ask me, because I told him that you were coming on. So he did ask me to give you his best.
Appreciate that.
But yeah, Well, and that was one thing too that I wanted to make sure I was very adamant about was I wanted to make sure you didn't feel like you were just there to cook. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you guys did a great job.
The fact that you were generous enough to come and make sure we were all taken care of. Um, I mean, that was not having met any of us, you know, except for Matt. I mean, that was a gift in itself. So I really wanted to make sure that you knew you were taken care of and that you could just have a good time. You know,
You did.
you could be one of the guys and dude, everybody, and I'm not just gassing you up. Everybody loved you. Like even still, some of my buddies like Foxy
Yeah.
and Bryce and Eric, like when I see them and we get to talk and whatever, they'll still be like, dude, that CD guy was the coolest guy I've ever met in my life.
We had a
And
good time.
they only know you as CD. They don't know you by like they know your name, but they're like,
It's so bizarre. I have like 6 like alter egos in the world.
really?
You know, I have like people who like know me by like Christopher Davis. And then I have people who call me C Lynn. That's like a little group. And then I got my
Okay.
CD group. And I remember I was dating this one girl and I brought her around, Eric and Matt and them. And they're like, CD, CD. And she's like, why do they keep calling you CD? And I'm like, well, my name's Chris Davis. And you know, she's like, I like that. I got my
Yeah.
high school friends who call me Big Moose. You know, it's like
What? I'm what?
that's a story. I mean, it's okay. All right, so we'll tell that one.
Yeah.
So I used to have right now my hair's probably like down to here, right? But I used to have like the classic like wings hair in high school.
Yeah.
And I was in band all through high school. And me, my buddy Chris Lane, my buddy Jeremy Johnson, we were all trombones, which means that we were just havoc all day in band class. We were just dinking around.
Yeah.
And so it was senior year. And we got all of our band pictures together. And then the photographer said, if anybody would like some group pictures or solo pictures, let me know and we'll take your pictures in your uniform. And I mean, I got my marching band gear on. There's like this reflective, like 80s sash with all this like bedazzling on it. I got my marching hat with like this crow feather in the center, you know? And so we're standing together and I'm on the end and the photographer's looking at me and he goes, let's get that big moose in the middle.
Wow.
And ever since then, yeah.
Wow.
And ever since then, my nickname was Big Moose. So my sisters will call me Moose, and my buddies from high school call me Big Moose. So
what a bold strategy.
You never know who you're gonna get
by that photographer.
Right.
Wow.
It's okay. I was a little dweeb back then, so I was like, yeah, I'm a moose.
That's funny. So you are currently on a trip around the country.
I am. Yeah.
So if you could tell everybody, where did you start and where are you now and where do you hope to end up?
So I would say, you know, reflection is huge in life. We all need to take time we can't process one thing when we have a bunch of things going on in our minds. And so, you know, one thing that's really helpful, whether you do it every night or once a week or on your birthday, is like sit down, like set everything down and just reflect on where you want to be, where you're going to go, kind of like the question you're asking.
Yeah.
And this trip has offered me a ton of reflection. And one thing I've noticed, and one thing that I came to understand before leaving on this trip actually, was this has been on my heart for like 10 years. I've always felt called to leave Michigan and to explore the United States. I've done a ton of international traveling in my collegiate career. I've been to China, Albania. I've been to France, Spain. I've been down to Mexico. I won a grant to do some research in architecture in India, and I lived over there for 3 months. So worldly traveling has just been in my blood. And after my first trip, the first place I think I went extensively by myself was China for 3 weeks. That was a trip. That was a wake-up call, you know?
Yeah, I'm sure.
And so I always had this deep seed in me to travel. But then I was sitting there thinking, like, I've gone to all these beautiful places around the world, but I don't know my own backyard. I've never been to the West Coast. I've been to like Michigan to Florida, as a kid, just doing trips, maybe in North Carolina, South Carolina, but that's really it. Most of my life's been all over Michigan and in the UP a ton.
Mm.
So I've always felt called to do that. And I started having some distress about 5 years ago. And this is a little tangent, but it basically got me on this, what we call the Pro U path. And the Pro U path is every single person has a Pro U list or can have a Pro U list. And it's what you do every day, every week, every month, every year to make yourself the best version of yourself. And I learned that from this personal coach. His name's Tom J. Dieters with the Pro U podcast. And it absolutely changed my life. And a lot of times when people are going through some struggles, I ask them, well, what's your Pro U list? And some people are like, well, what's a Pro U list? And I explain like I just did. And it's like, well, obviously we all need sleep. We all need to stay hydrated, eat good nutritional food to keep us energized. But outside of that, sometimes we can get so lost in our minds. Like a lot of people don't live life, they live mind. You're in here all day, you know, and it can be depressing. It can be exhausting. And we're doing our 9 to 5 and we have all these things pulling us in 10 different directions. But what am I doing for me? My Pro U list is some simple things, some personal things. I mean, first and foremost, I need good sleep. If I don't get 7 to 8 hours, you're going to find yourself a cranky CD, or just not in the best place, and when I eat healthy, when I eat good foods, whole foods, when I watch, I don't really cut anything out, but I really, really watch my consumption. The only thing I really cut out is dairy. It just doesn't sit with me well. I feel better. Now, the things that I need to be active every day, whether that's running, riding my bike, playing soccer, going to yoga. I need some kind of physical activity to shut my mind off.
Yeah.
The other thing I need quiet time. So I need to read. I need to spend at least a couple days a week reading. So that way I can just focus into something that doesn't have this working.
Yeah.
The third thing I need every single week, I need to see my family. Whether that's having an interview here with my buddy, or if it's spending family Sundays, or if it's going and seeing a cousin or friend. These are things that I have to work on every week in order to be my best self. And so when I'm having a bad day, I just go look at that Pro U list and I'm like, okay, I drank a lot of water today. Okay, I ate some good food. I exercised. Oh, I only slept 4 hours yesterday. Maybe that's why I'm feeling a little irritable. Maybe that's why I'm a little cranky today, or let's say it's been a stressful week at work. I do architecture. So it's a service industry. So you could have 3 days where you're doing nothing and then a client contacts you and it's like, hey, we need 4 renderings in 2 days. And then you're going from working a 7-hour day to like 15-hour days, which means no soccer, no yoga. It means I'm living at the office. So in a couple of days, guess who starts not being his best self?
Yeah.
This guy here. So that led me to start having these conversations of awareness and consciousness in my mind of who do I want to be? Like before I fully answer this question, like I'll ask you, Patrick, if you had a week to live, you have 1 week to live.
Yeah.
Would you live the life you're living right now?
Wow. That's a question right there, man.
Because Michael Singer in The Untethered Soul talks about how death is the ultimate teacher.
Yeah.
And death asks us, how are we living life? How are we appreciating life? Because death brings value. It's not morbid. It brings value to everything.
Yeah.
That
it puts things into perspective too.
Death is like a freedom. It like, if I know I have a week to live, do you think I'm going to care about how my hair looks or how my body looks or about this or that? I'm going to be living authentically. And I think it's a good question to ask ourselves.
It is a good question to ask. Yeah. And I think too, it's something that really gets you thinking about, okay, if I only had a week to live, what are the important things that are in my life? What are the things that I that I put my time into now, that if it really came down to it, would I still, and
Exactly. And
yeah,
for
that's
some
a
of us
great
too,
question.
it will also, I think for some people, because you still live life. You're
Yeah.
still, no matter in that week, you're still going to live life, but the quality of that life, how you live that life, how you show up every day. Are you going to sleep until 11 o'clock? Are you going to get up at the sunrise? Because that might be the last sunrise you see. Now that's hard to do in life, to live that way every day. It almost feels like
Yeah.
you're grinding,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I don't think it's a question that's meant to set a bar to
Hmm.
give you stress and anxiety. It's just think about it. Just
Hmm.
be conscious and aware of that, and just try to live that way.
Yeah.
And so I started getting to a point to where I was doing all these things, but there was something in me that just wasn't being fulfilled. And I'd say about a year before this trip started, I decided that I felt like there was a lot of weight on my shoulders, so I wanted to minimize my life. I wouldn't say I'm not a pack rat, but I have attachment issues for sure. And there are little tiny items that are pieces of clothing that I just love and I can't get rid of them, right?
Yeah.
Or like, hey, this is a good shirt. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not my style anymore, but there's nothing wrong with it. So I feel bad throwing it out. And I don't want to donate it.
Yeah.
So like I had all these old versions of me. And I was like, I like style. So I had this like Instagram board just full of clothes. I want that jacket one day, but I gotta wait till I throw this jacket out.
Yeah.
Why? Why don't I start living my life now how I want to be, defining me? You
Yeah.
define you. And so I'm just like, you know what? That's a sweet shirt. You've had it since you were 23. You're 35. Like, let's get a new shirt, buddy. Like, I mean, there's a couple you got to keep on,
Yeah.
you got to keep a few of those things.
Yeah.
But I just started looking at, I put something on and it felt like an old version of me.
Mm.
So I spent about 9 months minimalizing my life, my memorabilia, clothes, items in my loft. And I just started really filtering down. And the less I had, the better I felt. The
Really?
less I had, the better I was. And I felt liberated. I felt free. And I also knew that I was going towards this trip. And who doesn't overpack every time they go somewhere?
Yeah.
So I was like, if I don't get rid of like 75% of this shit, I'm gonna need a trailer behind my truck when I go on this trip. So there was some necessity. There was also some emotional needs, some growing that occurred there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you, man, it was hard. I mean,
Sure.
I spent hours crying, or just, when I subletted my loft and I no longer had a place of my own, I felt like my identity was lost.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a single guy at 36, and I was like, well, who's going to want to date me or relationship with me? I don't have a home.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have all these things. But then I had to remind myself that we are not defined by the objects we possess.
Yes.
We're defined right here. This connection right here, this defines us.
Yeah.
How we go out in the world and treat people, that defines us. Our actions, our character. And that was a emotional thing I had to go through. And there was, some physical stuff, like moving all my stuff. Oh my goodness, that's just exhausting on itself.
Yeah.
You never know how much stuff you have until you move out somewhere.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, this did not seem like this room was that packed.
Exactly. And then you sit there and you're like, where did I even get all this stuff? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't shop. You know what I mean? Like, well, like, where did I get this? Yeah.
I had a whole folder full of ticket stubs. And I remember keeping them all because I was going to make, I don't know, a memory board of them or something. But some of these things, I mean, I had like thousands of ticket stubs. And I was like, Chris,
Jeez.
Some of them are so old, the ink was off of them now. You couldn't even see what it was. It was a blank piece of paper. I was like, dude, why? So, I started throwing stuff out and I felt better and better. But I also had to really come to terms with letting go of some stuff. Like, I sold my snowmobile to help pay for my rig. I sold my motorcycle to help pay for my rig. I sold my computer. I built computers for the last 15 years. I sold my baby, my power rig, you know, to help pay for this, because in life, even as much as we try to convince ourselves that we can multitask, we can't. We're always focused on one thing, no matter if our mind is, even if you're texting while driving, you only can do one thing at a time. How many times do you text and also hit that rumble strip? You know?
Yeah. I mean,
So,
no, I've never done that. I don't text.
right. Me neither. I never. That's irresponsible. Don't do it.
I've just heard from the PSAs that can happen. You know? No, yeah, that's, dude, I'm telling you, man. And I knew that when I was going to have you on, I was like, this is going to be one of the best episodes that I've had, because of your outlook on life. And because of your outlook on, because of the way that you go about your life and what you
it took some
find is important. I'm sure. And the fact that you're so self-aware, and the fact that you're so conscious of the things that are healthy in your life and the things that aren't. Because even there are so many times where there are things that are unhealthy in your life, but you still enjoy it, where you're like, I'm living life, right? I'm having fun, or I'm enjoying this.
I'm going to indulge a little.
Yeah. But then it turns into that it's like a teeter-totter of, okay, I'm doing too much indulging now.
And it becomes, and it becomes like engorged.
Yeah.
You know? And when we get engorged with anything, any kind of a food, a substance, a lack of mobility, we store energy, and energy doesn't want to be stored. It wants to flow. It wants to move, you know?
Yeah.
I'm sitting on the ground right now. I mean, this is how I ground.
Yeah.
You know, so many people have back problems because we sit in chairs all day, you know, and energy needs to move. And when we kind of get gluttonous with our habits, with our energy, with what we do, with what we don't do, we get like calcified, and that's when issues start to happen. You know, let me get a sip of my. By the way, just real quick, you drinking any coffee right now or what?
No, dude, I don't drink coffee.
Nothing.
I mean, I've got.
I think I knew that.
I've got Body Armor. Speaking of which, Body Armor, if you would like to sponsor, I'm here. No, yeah, dude. I purposely don't drink coffee, because then if I have a film shoot, or if I have somewhere where I have to drive, what is that? Choose to challenge. Hashtag choose to challenge. I like that. I'm going to put that on a hashtag for the video. Boom. But I choose to not drink coffee because then if I have a trip, or if I have like somewhere where I have to go to film or whatever, I'm one of those guys that will fall asleep on the road 100%. And so
puts me right to bed.
Yeah, and my car is it's like a freaking boat, and it just glides down the road. So on the highway, you just feel there's a light, you know.
So here's the question: were you
lulls me to sleep.
Ever diagnosed with ADHD or ADD as a kid?
No.
So what's interesting is most individuals who are diagnosed with ADHD or ADD, caffeine has a reverse effect than people who don't have that. So coffee, it will wake me up a little bit, but coffee actually calms me and mellows me out. So I remember when I was in middle school and younger, and I was just a hellion. Instead of putting me on Ritalin, my parents would give me chocolate-covered coffee beans, or
much better for you, by the way,
or some kind of a caffeinated drink. Because for most people who are ADHD, caffeine does the opposite. It doesn't amp them up; it flattens them out. And so if I was feeling anxious, and I was like, you know, if teachers were yelling at me a lot that day, I'd go in my locker, pop a couple of chocolate-covered coffee beans, and within 30 minutes, I could sit in class without fidgeting and focus. So like I can drink a cup of coffee and go to sleep in 30 minutes, no problem. You know, where some people can't drink coffee past like 3 p.m.
Yeah. Well, see, for me, like I have the normal effect of coffee. I purposely don't drink coffee, because then, in order to not fall asleep on the road, if I'm driving somewhere, I'll chug coffee, and that'll like wire me, like wig me out, but I get there safely. So, you know,
the thing is too about coffee is it's a false wig. So one, coffee is very acidic, and our bodies in general want to be in a state of alkaline. Cancer, bacteria, sickness, all lives in an acidic base environment. So as much as we can, we should try to drink alkaline water, put lemon in your water, because it's going to make your body fight those diseases and bacteria and all that. So coffee, which I just absolutely love it, in order to help kind of fight that acidity, I'll put like some cinnamon in there. Cinnamon helps it be a little more alkaline. And then I also, when we were born, our bodies were fat burning systems. That's why we nurse, because that's all we're getting is just fat, and it just like fuels our brain. And then I'd say probably around like 1 or 2, when we start eating formula, our body turns to a carbohydrate burning system. Takes a carbohydrate, breaks it down, turns into sugar. Sugar feeds us. So in my coffee in the morning, I'll always do like cinnamon, coconut oil, and maybe like a honey. So I have like a natural sugar. I have the coconut oil. That's just gonna, that fat, your body's just gonna chew that up in the morning. Then the cinnamon to help be an alkaline. It's too bad you don't drink coffee because it's freaking delicious.
Dude, that sounds really good. That
so
coffee,
good.
that kind of coffee, I could get behind.
Okay, well, when I get back in town, I'm gonna make you just a little one.
Yeah,
and we'll drink it. We'll drink it next to a bed in case you get tired. You can just fall asleep, or next to a couch.
Just cash out. Yeah, dude. Yeah, because for me, my coffee has to not taste like coffee.
Okay,
because
so,
I can't.
You'd be one of those people that would like dump creamer in it.
100%. Yeah.
which don't do that.
All right,
it's gross.
All right,
no, everyone. I'm just kidding. I'm all about inclusion, so everyone's allowed to do what they want to do.
There we go. Yeah, that's funny.
But I got a tangent there.
So what place? Where have you been on this trip, or what part of this trip, like location wise, has been your favorite, would you say, so far?
I have come to discover that CD loves hot springs. I have never been, I didn't know about, I knew of hot springs.
The third person use.
But like CD never experienced that in Michigan. You know, if I wanted to go sit in the water, it's either a pool, a river, or a lake, right? And there's nothing hot about that. So through my travels, thank you. You're right. There are hot tubs, but it's like the chlorine and all the chemicals. And so my first experience with a hot spring was up in Colorado near Glenwood, and you drive. It's like White Tip National Forest or something like that, White Tree National Forest, and it's near Carbondale, and it's on the Crystal River. You drive, never eat soggy waffles. Hey, left. It happens, whatever, you know? Some things don't change.
Northeast, south, and west.
Never eat soggy waffles. So I'm heading west to Glenwood, and then you head south, the soggy part. You head to the waffle, and then you head to the soggy.
Okay. And
you go through these beautiful twist and turn mountains, which is like a dime a dozen out here, that's why it's so fun to drive. There's a little pull off, and then down this ravine, there's this little pathway to this big old Crystal River, and along there's hot springs that just flow out of the mountain. And there's a community that maintains these, and they literally, if it wasn't for the rocks that they place, it would just go into the river. But they make these giant pools with these big boulders, and they maintain it every year, because in the winter months, the water's maybe only 10 feet deep. Near the pools, obviously, it gets shallower.
Yeah.
But then in the spring, when the water comes, that water goes up like 10, 15 feet. So the hot springs are completely buried. So every year they got to kind of redo this. But anywho, I went out there to check it out. Didn't know what to expect. I get down there, and there's like, some people are naked, some people aren't. It's like super chill. There's no one around. You sit in these hot springs, and there's just mountains in front of you. I mean, we had bighorn sheep walk by 10 feet from us, just walking by and you're just chilling in this hot spring, you know, it's snowing. And I was like, I love hot springs.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying it wasn't the beautiful freedom of the naked people around me. That's always liberating and nice. But everyone's just like super cool, you know. It was just really cool people. And not to mention hot springs, just for my birthday, I went up there again and I sat in the hot springs for 6 hours. I got up there at 7. It was kind of interesting. So my birthday is March 8th. It was just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
And so I got up there at 7:38, and my life number is 7, and my birthday is 3/8/85. So I love numbers. So I thought it was interesting. I got there at 7:38. I was like, this is meant to be. Like, I'm supposed to be here.
Yeah.
Which, if you believe it, you're gonna believe it.
Oh yeah.
And I sat there from 7:38 until like 2 a.m. by myself in the hot springs. It was a clear night. The sky opened up, and I just sat there and just looked at the stars and just jumped from pool to pool to pool in my birthday suit by myself.
Yeah.
And just like rejuvenated.
Dude, that's an experience.
I fell in love with hot springs. So I've been doing, also living on the road. Showers are hard to come by. So you have a little bag that you fill up with water, and it's got a little hose on it, and you got to do like one of those showers when like you get yourself wet and you turn it off and you like suds up and you get all going and you turn it on to rinse off. You only have like 2 gallons. That's it. Jeez. And unless you heated it up on the stove, it's just whatever temperature outside is, which when you're in 10-degree, 9-degree weather, you're not really itching to be in that. So I would go to these hot springs, and not that I'm rinsing my filth in hot springs, but you get in the hot spring, and then what's nice is always a cold river right there. So I get in the river and you refresh yourself. Yeah. So that's also a big perk. And so I started doing little hot spring jumps as I've been along this trip, especially in this cold weather. So that was amazing. And then I just did a hot spring up in Idaho called Gold Bug Hot Spring. And it was about an hour hike up in the mountains. It was a very, very challenging hike. I was out of breath. I was sweating by the time I got there. But then it had like 15 pools that would just traverse down this mountain. And you're up at, I can't remember how high the mountain is, but like I said, it's an hour hike up a mountain. Yeah. And again, wonderful community of people. Everyone's chilling, talking. You bring some water, some snacks, and you just hang out. And you're in these beautiful pools that are just filled with minerals that just rejuvenate your skin, rejuvenate your body, and there's not all those chemicals. Yeah. So you just you feel fantastic, So I would say the hot springs has been, without a doubt, my favorite part of this trip so far. I didn't think that was going to happen, but I'm like, all right, so maybe in a year or so, I got to do just a hot spring tour, just go from one hot spring to the other. And here in Colorado, there's quite a few, a dozen or so. Wyoming, there's more. And then Idaho, it's like just driving from Salmon down to Boise, I probably passed 15 hot springs. Jeez. Yeah, so they're all over the place. Wow. So it's in summer really, really strong, very sulfury, very high minerals. You can tell, you start seeing all those like greens and purples and all these crazy colors, Yeah. And then summer really mild. I went to a hot spring in Pagosa, and it was so strong in sulfur, I smelled like sulfur for 3 days. Really? Like even when, I mean, like TMI, but even when I would like have to like toot, I would be like, is that sulfur? It absorbed into me and got pushed out. I went to the bathroom one day, and like I thought all I did was just poop out sulfur. It was strong. Wow. That's crazy though, man. Because I never really thought, I never really thought about hot springs being here in the US. I always thought it was some, Switzerland or up in the Alps, or like there was no way attainable here. That's really cool. Yeah, it's and it's nice too, because like how you gauge your temperature is basically how far you are from the source. So the ones up in Goldbug, the lower pools were, I don't know, maybe like low 80s, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But then as you get closer to that top tier, and then once you got to the main waterfall, it was coming down. I mean, it's like 100 plus. It's like 108.
Wow.
Like it gets really hot to where you can almost. It's so interesting because when you're in the water, if you close your eyes, the heat isn't consistent. It's not like you're in a bathtub of hot water. It's almost like these tentacles of heat that are like reaching and like moving like this. It might come across your thigh, or like, you know, when I was in the ones in Glenwood, like the right side of my thigh would be burning because the heat's coming in there, but then the left side is cold because I got the river coming in. Wow. So there was also this amazing juxtaposition between literally on one leg, on one side, it's on fire, and the other side, it's cold. And it makes you think about those sensations. Like, how am I experiencing this? And how is this like life? Between how you can have a complete yin and yang so close to each other. And it's not about moving my leg or changing it. It's not about wanting something different. It's just about being present in the current moment and just appreciating it and enjoying it. Yeah. You know, we kind of talked about, are you living life or you live in mind? You know, like how present are we? Like we always have 1,000 things going on. I want to be this person. I got to be this successful. I got to post all this stuff because I'm trying to get an Instagram following, or I have to, you know, I'm hitting this grind because I want to, you know, be this big shot, you know, and all those are fine. But how often do we just like sit and drive and just like look around? Yeah. And just see what's there? Or how often do we just sit and have a conversation? And just like, if this was the last day I was going to be on air, we talk about that too. Like, dude, I would be like drinking the words out of your mouth, you know, because it would be the last conversation I'm having. Yeah. And it's about really like, I think living life to the fullest isn't about doing a lot. It's probably about doing the littlest and just being present. Yeah. You know?
Well, that's a big thing. That's a big thing too in what I do with acting. I mean, that being present in every scene, is something that that's the goal. And so, and that's something
you're feeding off of the other actor too, right? Like, of course you have a script, but like it's about this connection, right? Yeah. Who knows where that could flow a little bit.
Yeah. And that's the other thing too, is like, you know, the script is important, obviously, but one thing they always say is when you do all of the prep work, you prep and prep and prep, and you know, you really do the emotional work and the connection work and all of that stuff. And then when you get to set, you throw all that away and you just be there.
Amen.
And people always say, well, but how do you remember, or how do you, at that point, there's no remembering. It's just there, you know? And so that's what you strive for.
There's a lot of takes too, right?
There are a lot of takes.
So I kind of feel like sometimes people think too that like, you know, an actor just shows up and just crushes it first time. But like in movies, I feel like there's so much preparation before that actual edited scene that, like you're saying, you've done it so many times. Maybe you've done it 10 times in just regular clothes, and you're just moving through it until it feels good. Then so that way when you actually say an action, like you said, it's just second nature. You've embodied where you're at, and you've embodied right here and now. Yeah. And you're living it like it's happening right now. And there's no future, there's no past.
Yep.
I think it's beautiful what you do.
One of the best feelings, thank you. One of the best feelings is when you can get to a scene, and when you're done with it, you don't really remember what just happened. You kind of black out because you're so invested and you're so in it that you just like, everything is off of instinct then. And then when they yell cut, you're like, what?
Wind that back. Let me see it.
Yeah. Can I see that? Be like, well, no, it's good. Like, no, I genuinely want to know what it looks like, because I have no idea what just happened. You know what I mean? That's the best. That's the best feeling. And I've had that happen a few times. but there are definitely days where it is a challenge. It's a struggle because
It's supposed to be.
it is, yeah. But
Life
I
isn't
mean,
supposed to be easy.
no. And the
Like,
best things in life are not easy,
no, they're not.
you know,
Why not?
and because if it was, then everybody would be doing it, right?
Exactly.
Um,
Well, I think one thing we forget too is we try to put all of these, what is the purpose of life?
yeah.
And oh, dude, how many books, how many great minds have contemplated the purpose of life? And it's like this hairball. It's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, you know? And I think the purpose of life is just to grow through life. We are
Yeah.
here to learn. I've done some shitty things in my life.
Yeah.
I didn't always used to be this person.
Mhm.
Life, through its evolution, has given me the opportunity to accept change and to grow. And you either can accept that challenge or you can let it defeat you. And that's life. It's that simple. It's that beautiful. It's so that from the day I was born to the day I die, I continually, maybe I had some peaks, maybe there's some low ones, but I'm becoming the best version of myself. I'm learning from my mistakes. I'm not repeating the same mistakes.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think what's important too for a lot of us to understand, and I am a God believing man. I would say that I categorize myself as, you know, a Christian.
Mhm.
I believe in God, I believe in Jesus Christ, but I also believe in science and the universe. And I truly believe that we are soulful beings
Mhm.
having a human experience.
Yeah.
I believe that, and there's this author who has this amazing book. His name is, I think, Carl Lee. It's called The Journey Home. And it talks about how we as souls chose to come here and have an earthly experience. And we make soul contracts. You and I may have a soul contract that we pre-organized before we even came down here, that like I was going to help you and you're going to help me, and somehow we were going to interact with each other and better ourselves. And when we talk about that awareness and that consciousness and that mindfulness, that is taking our entire being. We have our physical bodies,
Mhm.
we have like the lens, just like our mind. And then what's controlling our mind is like this consciousness
Mhm.
that's behind it. And those can get so pancaked together, and we can create some space and realize that, okay, I'm having this feeling right now. Well, that's my body sending my brain a message. And my brain is just relaying that to me. But I am the viewer. I am not my emotions,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
I am not what's happening to me right now. When you get upset or happy, it's like a fire alarm. You
Mhm.
know, it's just saying, hey, something's going on here. If you're feeling depressed one day or if you're feeling excited, those are just messages saying, hey, there's something going on here. And when we can detach from our feelings and not be so invested, anchored into them,
Mhm.
then we can like have some understanding, be understanding with ourselves, have some self-love, and be like, okay, Chris, you're feeling a little nostalgic right now. That's okay. You know, this and this happened here, so that's probably why you're a little emotional. You know, you're on this trip, you're doing this. And when we can start to map our way through our emotions, then they're not so heavy on us,
Yeah.
and they don't control us so much. And I think more important than anything, it's just realizing that you are a consciousness that is viewing your world through your tools. And I think when we can create a little separation there and just remember, like, if you're driving and a deer almost runs out, you kind of, you know, hit the brakes or something, your heart starts beating,
Yeah.
or maybe some dude cuts you off and you're like, that,
You
you
son
know,
of a
if you can just, and then sometimes that might make someone angry all day. Someone
Yeah.
cuts them off in traffic in the morning, they're pissed all day.
Yeah.
But what if you just said, you know what, okay, that guy cut me off. So I'm feeling that my values aren't being considered and validated, right? Or not validated, but my values and my space isn't being respected right now. So I'm feeling attacked, and that's why I'm getting defensive. And just don't try to change it, but just shine a light on it and just be aware of it. And then from there, you've already created that space and you can kind of let it go, you know? So I think, you know, and kind of going back to that consciousness thing a little bit, mixing that viewpoint with my Christianity beliefs, I almost believe that like there are certain things as souls that we want to learn in life or learn over a period of lives. And I feel like as we learn lessons, we ascend, and maybe as we make mistakes, we descend. And I think once we've kind of learned everything our souls want to learn, I think that's when we kind of make the final transition to heaven or to this higher being or this higher consciousness. And when I think of life that way, it makes me not so hard on myself for the failures and for the mistakes I've made. But it also gives me the energy and the drive to say, you know what, I'm going to minimize my whole life out of my loft. I'm going to move into my parents for 3 months, which was a beautiful, thank you, Mom and Dad, a beautiful 3 months.
Preface it with that. That's good.
But it was tough, you know, and it was scary. And up until the day I left, I didn't know what I was doing, if I was making the right choices. I was emotional all the time because I was like, what am I doing? But then once I got on the road, once, you know, they always say it's darkest before dawn. And it was such a struggle to get here. It was so hard. I worked so hard to get the job, to make the money, and then to get rid of it all in order to pay for this. And then just to leave, it was challenging. It wasn't easy. No. And like you said, it's not supposed to be. And there was times I wanted to just quit and just be like, I'm not going to do this. But to persevere, to finally get over that hump and get to that mountain peak, because the descent's always the best hike. And it's the easiest, I should say. Once I got on the road, it was just like, and I was liberated. I was freed. And I have experienced, I'm getting goosebumps right now talking about it. I felt a level of freedom and joy and authenticity to myself. I was like, why wasn't I living this way before? And I'm not saying I'm going to live this way forever. And it's not the act that I'm doing that's important. It's the choice to go after that dream. It's the choice to say, you know what, above everything else, this is my dream. I don't care if I get 20 doors slammed in my face. I don't care if I got to sell everything I own. I'm going to make this a reality. I mean, you being an actor, I don't know how many auditions, but like there's a lot of rejection in acting. A ton. You have to be a tough cookie to be an actor because, and it's so personal.
Well, it's taken a while. I'll tell you what, it's taken a while to get to the point where, because you're right, it is so personal, because it's one of those things where like you're showing up and you're literally putting yourself out there,
everything
for someone in hopes that they like you. That's a huge, like, it's sick, really. It's sick.
100%, because
it's like terrible. And it's one of those things where I used to be the guy who, you know, if I would bomb an audition, I would be like, man, like I don't understand. What did I do? What is it about me that they didn't like? I thought I had this down. When really I had somebody tell me, they go, honestly, they knew whether they wanted to hire you within the first 7 seconds of you walking in the door.
For sure. It's a feeling, it's a vibe,
and that blew my mind, because I was like, I don't understand how that could be possible. They don't know me.
Just like that.
You know what I mean? But they have a vision of what that character looks like in their head. And if I don't fit that vision visually, whoa. Yeah, you know what I mean.
I dig that. I dig that.
If I don't fit the vision visually, man.
Yeah, man.
Then they already have written me off, and I might be able to win them over, but
How
it's already an uphill battle, you know?
I mean, how quickly when you're watching a TV show or a movie can you be like instantly be like, man, those two just don't have chemistry. You
Oh yeah.
just you just
Instant.
feel it.
Yeah.
And
But when they do have chemistry,
it's instant.
It's magic.
Yeah. And so I could see how that would be a tough thing to get your mind around because it isn't personal.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's also another book called The Four Agreements. And one of the agreements is don't take it personal.
Yeah.
If some dude cuts you off on the road, don't take it personal. He's not thinking about you.
Yeah.
Trust me, he's thinking about himself. And you know what? Maybe his wife's in labor in the hospital.
Yeah.
Maybe someone just got into an accident.
Yeah.
You know, so often we think about me, this is my space. And it's like, well, again, detach from your emotions and how you're feeling. Be aware that you're feeling it.
Yep.
And then think of the other person and what they're doing. And 9 times out of 10, they're not thinking about you. No. So don't take it personal.
Yeah. And he could just be a jerk.
And he could just be a shitty driver.
Exactly.
That happens.
But you know, it's interesting because that is one thing, and I like that you said that, of the detach yourself from your emotions, in a sense of, you know, accept that you're going through them, understand you're going through them, but try to learn something from that. That's one thing that I've really, really worked hard to try and get to is, or that's a point that I've really tried to get to, is the fact that any quote unquote failure that I have, I try not to look at it as a failure.
Do you know what fail stands for?
Oh, I used to know.
It's an acronym.
Yeah, it's an acronym.
Maybe it's not, but it's been made into an acronym. First attempt in learning.
Yes, that was my fourth guess.
I knew you knew it.
See, I was there.
You were just trying to see if I knew it.
That's the whole point, you know. I'm trying to test you as the guest, you know. But really, it is. I mean, I'm really, really trying to focus on taking every experience, good or bad, that I have in my life, and try to learn, like, okay, why am I going through this right now? What is it that I need to be seeing out of this? And what is it that I need to take out of this to be able to move forward in a more positive way?
Well, let me ask you this. Are you happy where you're at in life right now?
I'm happy with the steps I'm taking to move forward towards my goals.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And if anything in your past had changed, you wouldn't be where you are today.
Exactly. Because
you have to remember that.
Because, and it's interesting that you ask, like, are you happy with your life right now? I think that's a more complicated question than
maybe content
than how it sounds. Because there are things in my life that make me happy. There are things in my life that make me sad or upset.
Maybe are you at peace? That might even be a better question. Are you at peace with where your life is right now? Because like you said, happiness is fleeting. It comes and goes.
Right now, I'm a work in progress.
We all are.
Right now, I'm a work in progress. There are aspects of my life that I'm very happy with, and there are aspects of my life that I'm not.
That's good, because it gives you a place of focus.
Exactly. And you know, it's interesting because also, you know, I think with everything that, like you said, everything that you experience in your life, in your past, brings you to where you are now. And so I think about that, and I think about, like, growing up, right? Success came very easy for me. And I'm not saying that to sound all like, well, look at me, but it did. It came very easily for me. I worked hard.
You're a very talented man.
Thank you. I worked hard, but my success, I should say, my success came quickly for me. Not easy. It came quickly because I worked my ass off for what I wanted.
For sure you did. For sure.
But now that success doesn't come as quickly as it used to. And I used to be like, oh man, am I losing it? Like, am I losing a step or something? You know, like I just, that's how I would think. And I got to the point where I said, nope. I'm learning now that I need to appreciate the successes and appreciate the quote unquote failures, because I didn't before.
Appreciation, gratitude. Dude, you nailed it. That's huge.
If you don't have that, Then
Every night before you go to bed, you should say at least 2 things you're grateful for.
yeah.
If not, just to change your perspective.
Yeah.
If you're in the dumps, instead of hitting that record player that's just saying you're bad, you're bad, you're bad, you're shitty, like the world's tough. It's so hard to sometimes just put a break in that and say, whoa, like pull the reins back and just, what are you grateful for? The best way to reverse a negative thought is a happy thought. Like, it's tough, but you got to be your own hero.
Yeah.
Here's another acronym for you. When we talked about being mindful of how we're feeling, it's called RAIN. And I learned this on a TED Talk from this like Buddhist. And the first quote he said is, there is 2 mistakes on the road to mastery: never starting and never finishing. And too often we'll be on the track, and maybe college, or maybe a marriage, or maybe something will, if you get married, oh, well, you're climbing this mountain and this is a nice town. I think I'll just hang out here for a while instead of going to the peak,
Yeah.
And you don't finish, and you don't have to finish, but it's something to be aware of.
Yeah.
And no matter what in life, when you're going through emotions, what I use constantly when I'm having trouble getting out of my thoughts is the acronym RAIN, RAIN. It's easy for me to remember because I'm a Pisces, and when I am down, I'm such an emotional being. I mean, I've probably cried more on this trip than my whole life. I just like, it's interesting how when you're alone, things just come up. You think about man, I went and visited my Aunt Iris and Uncle Jim, and on the day I had to leave, I wanted to have this heart to heart with them and see how appreciative I was. And the first 5 minutes, I couldn't talk. Like I was crying so hard, I couldn't even get words out. I'm just an emotional guy.
Yeah.
So when I think rain, I think tears. I think sadness.
Yeah.
I think so. R is just recognize that you're feeling what you're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Just recognize it.
Yeah.
A is be aware that this is how you're feeling right now. This isn't permanent, and this is just a moment in time. I is now investigate. So investigate, ask questions. Why am I feeling this way? What happened? Did someone cut me off? Did I not get enough sleep? Have I not had food today? My blood sugar's low and I'm getting cranky.
Yeah.
Was it a past trauma? Is this something that I experienced from a family trauma or from friend or some kind of a traumatic experience in my life? And then N is not identify. I am not these emotions. I am not that trauma. I am not that thought. I am this physical being here with a soul. And although I'm feeling these things, this is just a chemical process going on in my brain, just saying, hey, that was a trigger for me. Why is it a trigger? Well, how can I work on that? And that RAIN, recognize, awareness, investigate, non-attachment, non-identify. And that, just that little process, just like helps create that space. So then I can rationally think and not be so in my emotions.
Yeah. And
that was a beautiful, beautiful lesson that I use constantly when I'm feeling a certain way,
That is, man. That's
a good one.
Dude.
Investigate, look inward.
Do you know
ask
you're
questions.
Like not to like minimize this down, but you're like a freaking walking fortune cookie. You know that, right? Like you like you have so many great, would you call them anecdotes, I guess? Or you have so many great tools in your belt.
And it's called that's beautiful. You said that. This goes back to the Pro You podcast by Tom J. Dieters. What's your toolbox?
Yeah, man.
You open it up. Is it empty? Do you have one screwdriver? Do you have metric and standard? Do you have a flathead, a Phillips, a hammer, a rubber mallet? Like,
you have a whole freaking shed.
Life is about building tools.
Yeah.
5 years ago, Patrick, man, back in 2015, I'd say probably, I was in a low place. I was repeating mistakes. I was toxic. I was a good guy. I smiled and laughed, and you saw a version of this for me, but like I really wasn't, I hadn't evolved yet, or at least, you know, like the caterpillar that goes to the chrysalis phase, to the butterfly. Like,
Mhm.
and when that butterfly comes out of the chrysalis phase, it's not reading a manual. Okay, step 1, open your wings. Okay. Step 2, jump off leaf. You know, it
Yeah.
just knows. It just
Yeah.
knows how to. And when you start to learn about yourself, and when you start saying, not eradicate the shadows,
Yeah.
but look at your shadows and be like, I see you. I love you. You're my best friend. You're a part of me too. My whole life, I wanted to get rid of all my negatives. And until I started embracing my shadows,
Mhm.
I could actually deal with them and put them at ease.